In this video, I'm going to pose and answer two questions. Firstly, what is a UV lens filter? And secondly, do you really need one? I'll be honest, when I started formulating this video idea, I had one answer, one opinion to that second question of, do you need one? But then as I started thinking more about it, more answers started to appear. It was much more of a grey area than I originally thought. First of all then, what is a UV filter? Well, going back in time, way back in time, when I used to shoot film on analog cameras, a UV filter was almost an essential accessory whenever you bought a lens. As the name suggests, this little piece of glass filters out UV light from entering your lens. With analog photography, this was actually quite important because if you were shooting with certain films or in a really sunny day or at high altitude, without one of these you ran the risk of ending up with like a blue haze over your final images. So that's what they are. But now to the not so easy question, do you still need one? I feel a hat moment coming on. It's time to go outside. Let's start by pointing out the obvious. Digital cameras can't be affected by UV haze these days because, well, there's no emulsion to be affected. Any haze or flares we get these days are usually going to be from an exposure error on our behalf or perhaps another filter that we've left on the front of the lens. And obviously we've got things like Lightroom and Photoshop to help with that situation these days. Also, consider this. Do we honestly believe that the likes of Fujifilm, Nikon, Canon, etc. would spend millions upon millions of dollars on R&D and ultra clean manufacturing facilities just so that a guy called Neil in the middle of England could put a £30 piece of optical glass on the front of their £2,000 lens? So initially, our answer would be no. We'd be bonkers to put a UV filter on the front of one of our lenses. However, a secondary and popular reason for putting a UV filter on the front of your £2,000 precision lens is to protect it from damage. The thinking being that it's a lot cheaper to replace a small UV filter than it is to wait for a repair or, worse, a replacement through your insurance company. So now, our answer would be yes. We'd be bonkers not to put a UV filter on the front of our lens just to protect our investment. It's okay. I'll look after you. He's a big boy. He's my big boy. However, a few years ago, a guy called Steve Perry did some drop tests on lenses with and without a UV filter to test whether or not the filter actually did protect the lens as the theory went. The conclusion was that although yes, surprisingly enough, the thin piece of optical glass did break quite easily when dropped or hit, when the corresponding test was done without a filter, the front element actually had to be hit or dropped so hard that the internals were damaged as well, so no piece of £30 optical glass was ever going to protect it anyway. So now, our answer would be no. Why on earth would we spend more money on a filter that isn't going to improve our skill level or improve our overall image quality? However, there is one thing that we all do need to do quite often, and that's clean our glass. There's definitely before each shoot we do to make sure we're getting the cleanest image possible. But what about if we're by a beach or in a desert and there's salty or sandy spray going around? We might need to clean our lenses more than once. Now, we've already ascertained that manufacturers make these lenses quite tough, but I'm not willing to find out how many times my Fujifilm GF lens can be buffed with sand before it's irreversibly damaged. Hi, is that Admiral Insurance? Yeah, I was just doing this YouTube video and testing a theory about sand and lenses. And so, here is my final, definitive answer as to whether or not you should put a UV filter on the front of your lens. It depends. It depends on what and where you're shooting. For instance, if you're shooting in a studio with your camera locked down onto a tripod, then no. I highly doubt a piece of £30 optical glass is going to enhance your images in any way whatsoever or protect your lens. In fact, it's more than likely going to introduce things like ghosting or flares. It depends how often you're going to walk around with your camera just slung over your shoulder without protection on the lens. I'm not, for instance, going to be walking around somewhere like London or New York or Marrakesh without some kind of protection on the front of my GFX 100S. More often than not, it's probably going to be in a camera bag, safe and sound. But my little Fuji XS10 on the other hand could quite easily be around my shoulder, ready to grab some shots that just appear in front of me. And then maybe a £30 piece of glass on the front element just to protect from knocks and dust and things would be a good investment. You see, risk aversion isn't always a bad thing. So as most of my GF lenses are a 77mm thread, I'm quite happy to put a £30 piece of optical glass in my bag for use as and when, but it's not going to be on my lens all the time. So if you're interested in getting yourself a UV filter for some protection just now and again, I'll link below in the description a couple of filters that I have used and would recommend. Just remember to choose the thread size that's right for your lens. If you're not actually aware of where to find that out, or you don't know it straight offhand, here's a little tip. If you take off the lens cap, it usually tells you on the inside what thread size you need. So it says here diameter 77mm. I know, I am full of useful information. I'm a giver, what can I say? So as ever, I really hope you've enjoyed this. Do give a thumbs up, leave a comment if you've enjoyed this or if there's anything else that you might like to know. And as usual, I really hope to see you in the very near future. Thank you.